Hey there, growth seekers. Welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Growing Forward podcast, where we talk all about personal growth, fulfillment, and unlocking your true potential. I'm your host, Jonathan.
And I'm Janelle. We're so excited to have you with us today. This podcast is all about helping you take those small but meaningful steps toward becoming the best version of yourself.
If this episode resonates with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube.
Okay, how many of you are already starting to feel that, New Year's resolution guilt creeping in?
But tell me about it.
Yeah, those big goals can be tough to, actually keep up with once real life kicked back in. But
Wait,
what if there was a strategy, though? And what if it was, backed by science? That could help.
okay, I'm listening.
It's this thing called habit stacking.
Habit stack?
Yeah, it's been, all over the place online lately.
Oh, for sure, especially on TikTok. Everyone's saying it's like the secret to, everything.
Right, but is it all hype? Or is there something more to it?
Well, the idea itself isn't actually new. It's really based on a ton of research.
Wow, so it's not just a fad.
No, it's all about linking a new habit that you want to, build with an existing one. So one that's already, part of your routine.
So you're saying after I make my coffee, I'll do 5 minutes of stretching.
Exactly. Or say pairing, folding laundry. Something most people don't love.
The worst.
With something fun like a podcast. Make it smoother,
Right. But does it actually work? That's what everyone really wants to know, right?
Oh, totally. And I can tell you from my own experience working with clients and all,
Yeah.
it's been incredibly effective.
Really?
It's not just, temporary motivation.
Right.
This is about rewiring your brain to make new behaviors automatic.
Rewiring the brain. Okay, now that sounds intense.
No, it's not as complicated as it sounds. The articles you shared, they actually talk about this concept of context-dependent memory.
Yeah.
So our brains, we associate behaviors with certain contexts.
So that's why, my coffee routine becomes this powerful cue.
And then there's this whole thing with neuroplasticity.
Plasticity.
Yeah. So that's your brain's ability to kind of rewire itself based on things you do repeatedly.
So instead of willpower, we're changing our brain's wiring. That's mind-blowing.
Right.
But we've always heard 21 days to form a habit, right? What about that?
So that's a bit of an oversimplification. It actually comes from Maxwell Maltz, a plastic surgeon. He noticed his patients took about 21 days to adjust to, their new look.
I see.
But that observation, it got misinterpreted.
Oh, so it's not really 21 days.
Newer research shows it takes, on average, 66 days.
Wow, that's a lot longer.
But it varies, it could be 18 days or even 254 for some people.
Wow, that's a huge range.
Yeah, the key is consistency, not perfection.
Okay, so no magic number. It's more about, sticking with it.
Absolutely. And it takes time.
So how do we actually make this, work for us?
The first step really is choosing that right anchor habit.
Okay, the anchor habit, got it.
It's got to be something you do without even thinking, like brushing your teeth or, having your coffee.
Okay, makes sense. So we've got our anchor. What about the new habit?
This is where starting small comes in. Do 5 push-ups after my shower instead of exercise more.
Okay, so small and specific, got it. But how do we stay on track? We all have those days,
One really good strategy is the paperclip strategy. Sounds a bit silly.
Paper clips, okay.
But it's based on a powerful principle, visual cues.
Oh, like that story of Trent Deersmith, right?
Yes, the stockbroker.
He used paper clips to boost his sales calls.
Exactly. He had 2 jars, one with 120 paper clips, one for each call. Every call, move a clip.
So he could see his progress. That's cool.
Right. Super motivating. It taps into our, need for a sense of accomplishment.
And if turning a boring task into a game.
Exactly. And the best part is, you can adapt it to any habit. The articles talked about using it for push-ups, drinking water, anything really.
Wow, the possibilities are endless.
Visual cues are powerful. They're like reminders, progress trackers, and motivation boosters all in one.
Okay, we've got our anchor habit, our new habit, and our paper clips. But what happens when life, happens?
Yes. That's where planning for chaos comes in.
Planning for chaos.
Basically, acknowledging that life is unpredictable and having a backup plan.
Okay, so expecting the unexpected.
Right. Remember that story about James Clear, the author?
Yeah.
He got food poisoning while traveling and obviously couldn't write his usual article.
Oh no, so he just skipped it.
Nope. He published a short coming soon post. He called it reduce the scope, stick to the schedule.
So he was still consistent, even though it wasn't what he planned.
Exactly. Sticking to the schedule, even if the output changes, is key.
So we adapt without losing sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. And a good way to do that is with the if-then technique. So instead of, if I oversleep, I'll skip my run,
Right.
you'd say, if I oversleep, I'll run after work. Or if I can't make it to yoga, I'll stretch at home.
So we're basically pre-programming responses to potential obstacles.
Exactly. Minimizing excuses and maximizing the chances of sticking to it, no matter what.
This is making a lot of sense, but what's actually happening in the brain during all of this? Like, how does habit stacking make things automatic?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's this part of your brain called the basal ganglia.
Basal ganglia.
Yeah, and it plays a huge role in habit formation and, making things automatic.
So, like, how does that actually help me?
Well, think of it like your brain's autopilot.
Yeah,
It takes over for those actions you do without thinking, like driving home.
right.
And with habit stacking, you're essentially training your basal ganglia to, take over that new behavior.
So I'm training my brain's autopilot to add this new thing to its routine.
Precisely. It's all about understanding how your brain works.
This is so cool. I feel like I have a much better grasp on all this now.
I'm glad to hear that. It's really about working with your brain, not against it.
Makes sense. So we've talked about the science, the steps, but what about some real-world examples? How are people actually using this?
Oh, yeah, the articles are full of great examples. There's one about a woman named Sarah, a busy mom who wanted to be more mindful.
Oh, I can relate to that.
Right. Well, she used habit stacking. Her anchor was putting the kettle on for tea.
Okay, so something she did every day.
Right. And while the kettle was heating up, she would do a 5-minute breathing exercise.
So simple, but I bet it was effective.
It was. She started craving those moments of calm, felt less stressed, even slept better.
Wow, that's amazing. And it shows how small changes can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. It's about consistency, not perfection, remember.
Right. Habit stacking helps make those positive behaviors automatic.
Exactly. It's not just about willpower, it's a system.
And it can be used for anything, right? Like there was that story about John who wanted to be more proactive at work.
Oh, yeah, John. He struggled with procrastination. He linked sending important emails to his morning coffee.
Oh, smart. So coffee time equals email time.
Right. And it worked. He got important tasks done earlier, felt less stressed.
I love how these simple strategies can have such a big impact.
Me too. Small, consistent changes, that's the key.
Okay, before we move on, let's do a quick recap. What are the main takeaways so far?
First, leverage those existing routines. Choose an anchor habit you do consistently, without fail.
Like brushing your teeth or that first cup of coffee.
Exactly. Then, link your new habit to that anchor. Start small. Be specific.
Right, small changes, big impact over time.
And don't underestimate visual cues.
Our paper clips will be our trusty companions.
Exactly. And lastly, remember to plan for chaos. Life happens. Have those if-then strategies ready. Adapt, adjust, and keep moving forward, even if it's not exactly as planned.
Fantastic advice. I feel like I'm ready to tackle those resolutions now.
Me too.
But before we all rush off to grab our paper clips, let's talk about mindset. What are some mental shifts that can help us succeed?
One of the most important ones is to, shift your focus from perfection to consistency. Don't beat yourself up if you miss a day or two. It's a journey, not a sprint.
So it's okay to stumble as long as we keep going.
Exactly. Celebrate the small wins, no matter how small. They add up over time.
This is so inspiring. I feel like I have a whole new outlook. But before we dive deeper, I want to hear from you, our listeners. What's one small habit you'd like to build this year?
And what existing habit could you stack it with? What small change could create a ripple effect in your life?
Take a moment, think about it.
A lot of people try to change way too much at once, try to do it all. And that's just setting yourself up for failure. One of the psychologists we read about actually stressed starting small.
This is more of a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Think of it like building muscle. You would just start lifting the heaviest weights right away.
sure.
Start small, build up gradually.
Makes sense. But it's so tempting to just go all in when you're feeling motivated. Any tips for not doing too much?
One good tip is to just pick one new habit. Once it feels, more automatic,
Yeah.
then you can add another one.
So build momentum slowly.
Yeah, like a chain of changes, one linking to the next.
I like that. Okay, so we've got our anchor habit. We're feeling good, ready to go.
Yeah.
What are some practical tips for making sure it sticks?
I think we've got to talk more about the paperclip strategy. It's simple, but powerful.
Yeah, those visual cues are really important. The research actually shows that people who like track their progress visually, are more likely to stick with it.
It's that reward system in our brains, Every time you move a clip, it's a little dopamine boost, a mini celebration.
So it's more than just tracking, it's a psychological thing.
Exactly. It makes it feel good, keep you motivated.
Okay, so we've got our paper clips. We all know life doesn't always cooperate. How do we handle those days when everything goes wrong?
That's when planning for chaos becomes crucial.
Right, anticipating those roadblocks.
Exactly. Remember the story about James Clear and the food poisoning?
Oh yeah, poor guy.
Even though he was sick, he still published something, even if it was just a short post. Reduce the scope, stick to the schedule.
So we adapt, but stay consistent.
Exactly. And that's where those if-then statements come in. If I oversleep, I'll do a shorter workout, If I can't make it to the store, I'll order groceries online.
Okay, so we have backup plans.
Right. That way you're less likely to make excuses.
I like that it takes the pressure off needing to be perfect all the time. It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And that's such an important mindset shift.
Okay, but are there any downsides to all this? Any pitfalls we should be aware of?
Well, like any tool, it can be used in the wrong way. One pitfall is choosing the wrong anchor habit.
Right, that makes sense. What should we keep in mind when choosing one?
The biggest thing is consistency. It has to be something you already do regularly without fail.
Okay, so not like my clean the kitchen routine, which happens like once a month.
Exactly. It needs to be something ingrained, automatic, like brushing your teeth.
Solid, consistent anchor habit. Got it. What else?
Another thing is choosing a new habit that's just too much, too complicated.
Right, start small.
Like drink a glass of water after brushing my teeth, not write a whole chapter every day.
Okay, manageable steps. So to recap, what should we absolutely avoid when we're doing this?
First, don't pick an anchor habit that's already inconsistent. You need a solid base.
Right, no shaky foundation.
Second, don't try to change too many things at once. Start with one habit, make it stick.
Baby steps.
And lastly, be realistic about how much time your new habit will take. Don't set yourself up for failure.
Okay, that all makes sense. But a lot of us have tried things like this before, and it hasn't worked. How is this different? How do we know this isn't just another fad?
That's a fair question, and you're right, there are a lot of fads out there. But I think what makes habit stacking different is that it's not about forcing yourself. It's about working with your brain, using its natural tendencies to make change easier.
So it's not about willpower, it's about strategy.
Exactly. And that's why I think it has a better chance of actually working in the long run.
I like that. But so many of us, we get stuck in that start-stop cycle, motivated one day, off track the next. How do we break that pattern?
Again, it goes back to focusing on consistency, not perfection. Don't beat yourself up over slip-ups. Just get back on track as soon as you can.
So it's okay to mess up sometimes?
Absolutely. It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall off, but you get back on and keep trying.
Right. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And those if-then plans are like training wheels for your habits. They help you stay upright, even when things get wobbly.
This is really resonating with me, but there's something else I've been thinking about. We've talked about the good stuff, the benefits, but what about the potential downsides? Are there any ethical concerns with habit stacking?
That's a really good question. And it's something I've thought about too. Any technique that involves influencing behavior, even if it's for good, can be misused,
Right, like trying to control someone else without their consent. That's not cool.
Exactly. It's about respecting people's choices. And I also think it's important to be careful about, over-optimizing your life. Routines are good, but you don't want to become a robot.
Yeah, there needs to be room for spontaneity and fun, too.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, using habit stacking as a tool to help you live a better life, not to control every single aspect of it.
That's a good point. We need to be mindful of how we use these tools.
Absolutely. It's something we should all think about.
Okay, everyone, take a moment to think about everything we've covered. The science, the practical tips, the ethical side of things.
So, listeners, what about you? What small habit are you committed to building this week?
Think about those anchor habits we talked about. Which one are you going to use as your foundation?
Start small, be specific, and don't be afraid to try different things until you find what works for you.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself. This is a journey, not a race.
Absolutely. Celebrate the progress, no matter how small.
Great advice. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into habit stacking. We hope you've learned a lot and are feeling ready to start building some positive changes in your life.
One step at a time.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.